Hey, what is up, everyone? This is Juicy Hockey with Gordon Maxwell. I am your host, Gordon Maxwell. Today, we are recapping Game 1's double overtime last night, preview tonight's Game 2 between the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers, and the latest, juiciest rumors and news in the NHL. Let's get to it. Okay, first off, we're talking about last night's double overtime win by the Edmonton Oilers. You got to give credit to Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Zach Hyman, a.k.a. Shaq Hyman. And I mean, that was a heck of a game. This one went to double overtime. I mean, just an unbelievable game. You know, Leon and Zach, they got the first two goals in the second period, and Tyler Seguin comes in there in the second. Third period, it was teeter-tottering. You know, it was like in a balance. You know, the Oilers had 3 minutes to win in regulation, and Tyler Seguin ties it up. No surprise there. And we had to go overtime, and it went 3-2. It was basically on the exact under of the value. Yeah, I got to tell you, both goaltenders, Stuart Skinner and Jake Onger, played marvelously. Look at their stats. A .939 save percentage for Stuart Skinner. And meanwhile, Jake Onger had a .921 save percentage. Both goalies were very busy on their ends. Yeah, it looked pretty damn well. It looked pretty damn well on their end. Sagan stepped up very well, but you know, Lindell for the Stars on defense and Chris Tanev, they struggled on the plus minus area. I mean, it was a bit of a struggle. Pavelski struggled. Stikhoven, he had his struggles right there. Pavelski, yeah, I said him already. Mason Marchman, White Johnston, Matt Duchene, and Jamie Benn, they both were in the minus category. I thought it was a very good game, and both sides have played well. And I got to tell you, this series is going to go deeper than people expected. It's going to go 6 or 7 games. It's going to be no surprise. Yeah, and I say this. The Oilers played well. You know, their top 3 players stepped up their game. And, you know, Kulak and Bouchard got good helpers up there. Nuge, obviously, you know, Shaq and Connor both got goals and assists. And I got to say, you know, Leon Draisaitl had 3 shots, you know, Hyman 4. Evander Kane was very loud, and McDavid as well with 4. They were peppering the Oilers were peppering from all cylinders. And I thought it was a very good game, and I wouldn't be surprised this one goes to another 1-goal situation and a potential overtime. You got to love this Oilers Stars playoff matchup. It's always a classic. It's always a classic matchup because it's always suspenseful. You know, don't forget, you know, from 1997 to 2003, those 6 playoffs, we seen the Oilers and the Stars play in the first 2 rounds and vice versa. But this time, this is the biggest prize of all, winning the Western Conference and going to the Stanley Cup Finals. That's the biggest eyes on the prize. I am going to be enjoying the series. And I got to say that the goaltending was spectacular. And it won't be a surprise that it will be another 1-goal game. And don't forget, you know, this series will be on TNT Saturday night at 8 Eastern. And this one, I got to say, it's exciting to watch. And make sure you watch it on True TV and make sure you look at your bets and all over the place because this one is going to be another nail biter for Saturday. Coming up, we will be talking about the preview for tonight's matchup between the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers at MSG on ESPN, and it's at 8 p.m. We'll be back after these messages. We are back. So now Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers. It is crazy to see that Game 1, the Florida Panthers dominated defensively in the neutral zone and all around. I know the Rangers peppering shots late in the third period, but they came up nothing. And Pink Floyd once said, you know, oh no, just another brick in the wall for Sergei Bobrovsky. Officer Bob is always on the case, and I believe, you know, he's the it factor, and he's coming on his own. He's awakened, and you know, I know he's a little sluggish for not from last year. I mean, last year he was invincible, but you know, the depth was not there. But this time it's a complete team. And I got a feeling that this is going to be a hell of a matchup tonight. And we looked, I won't be surprised this will be a nail biter. This will be a 1-goal game. And looking at the odds, both are at minus 110. And it's a draw. And this means that this one's going to go to overtime. I wouldn't be surprised. Florida is going to somewhat controversially win, but the critics and all that stuff want the Rangers because it's TV revenue, big market, and all that stuff. And the question is, we heard that Capo Caco is sitting out for tonight's game, and there's been speculation that Matt Rempe, the big boy who's 6'8", played in the Western Hockey League, and he was like a 6th-round pick by the New York Rangers in 2020. Everybody's saying he's the next Bob Probert, next tough guy, making tough hockey great again, fighting hockey or whatever. But, the question is, will he make a difference? Intimidation doesn't mean anything. It's all about the game and all about the impact. It's all about making, one play that impacts the game. It's not about the intimidation of one individual with their physique and size and their fighting skill. It's more about the scoreboard itself. Yeah. And I got to tell you, Anton Lundell is going to have a heck of a game, on the back end. Him and Trocheck, and I tell you, Sasha Barkov and Vincent Trocheck, man, those two are awesome. They are one hell of a combo, 1-2 punch. And, back in the day in the Florida Panthers, but, Sasha is the teacher, Troch is the student. And I got to say, this is going to be a fun matchup again tonight. I wouldn't be surprised that this will be a 1-goal game. And looking at, the numbers here is that it's almost even on goals per and goals against and shots per game. The Panthers are slightly heavy favorites by 2, and shots against them, it's nearly a draw, nearly even. Power play goals, almost even at 63 and 65. Power play percentage is on the Rangers end. Power play goals against, 51 Panthers. The Rangers are stronger on the PK than expected. The PK percentage is basically 2% off. Shorthanded goals is even. Shorthanded goals against, it's a draw, nothing on that part. Yeah, I'm going to say this matchup is going to be a very tightly close matchup. I wouldn't be surprised that this one would either be a 1-1 series or 2-0 series, Florida Panthers. And don't forget, this game will be on 3 o'clock on Sunday on ABC and ESPN Plus and at Sunrise, Florida. And boy, the last thing I need to see is a bunch of goddamn Sea of Blue Ranger fans, a bunch of refugees fleeing their, state, trying to find freedom, and, adopt the Florida Panthers and adopt your new hometown. Don't bring your roots from New York to Florida. We don't want a sea of blue. We would like to see the sea of red. And this is basically a redemption. And the Rangers, your destiny and your calls are over, because we all know that the Knicks are not going to make it to the finals because they lost in the second round to the Pacers. And this ain't 1994. It's 2024. And Ruben Studdard saying this 20 years ago. I'm sorry for 2004. Yeah, I slammed the door on that because, I don't care if you're original 6 Rangers and all that stuff. You guys went to the conference finals 2 years ago. You lost to the Lightning. Then you went to the conference finals back in 2015 with the President's Trophy, and you still lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's no coincidence you're playing against another Florida team. And we all know that the Florida Panthers are a very dangerous top team in the NHL when it comes to road wins. I know the Rangers are, but the Rangers, can they bounce back? That's the question. Can the New York Rangers bounce back from being humiliated at their home ice at MSG? It was very quiet. Nearly 15 minutes they didn't get a shot on goal. That's basically a fourth of the game. And I'm not surprised. The Florida Panthers are a very dangerous team. They got a very strong depth chart, and I wouldn't be surprised that the Florida Panthers come out swinging quick, but the Rangers, they'll get something on the board. They'll answer. And I got to say, this will be a 1-goal matchup. I wouldn't be surprised this goes to 1 overtime. Florida Panthers win controversially, and the Panthers are up 2-0. But I wouldn't be surprised as well if the Rangers get something in the very last minute of the third period and they tie the series up. And, the old saying goes in playoff hockey, in playoffs in general, expect the unexpected hero, the most unexpected player doing something incredible. I wouldn't be surprised if a player that no one heard of, who didn't expect to make a huge impact in today's game. I wouldn't be surprised it would be someone that you would have never thought would make an impact. That is my take and my input. All right, we'll be back after these messages coming up. We'll be talking about the latest, juiciest rumors and news in the NHL and my predictions for the long weekend, for Memorial Day weekend. We'll be back after these messages. We are back. Okay, so we have an interesting development that negotiations for contract extension for the, I was going to say Atlanta Thrashers, I was going to say Carolina Hurricanes GM, Don Waddell, will not be renewed. And he announced his resignation, and the Blue Jackets asked permission for the Carolina Hurricanes that Don Waddell will be interviewing for the GM job for the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's going to be a hard task. Columbus is that orphan franchise. They've been around since 2000, almost 25 years. They've only won one playoff series. They've basically wasted so much talent and prime, like Rick Nash. And yeah, he's the only one I could come up with who was drafted number one and made an impact in the city of Columbus. But I just think it's going to be a tough job. I mean, Jarmo Kekalainen did a heck of a job. He warned out his welcome with his controversial about Mike Babcock hiring and, some questionable signings with Johnny Hockey and stuff and Patrick Laine. Yeah, I mean, Donnie Waddell, can he duplicate this magic like he did in Carolina? He's a very good GM, but I don't know if he can duplicate and replicate the same success he had in Carolina. This is going to be Atlanta Thrashers all over again. The Blue Jackets are a mess of a franchise, and I just don't see them actually making it. If there was a different timeline, if the votes would have been different in the 90s for expansion, I still don't it's nothing against Ohio and all that stuff. I think the team would have done much better if it would have been in Houston, Texas, or in Oklahoma City. Those were the two finalists in the 1997 NHL expansion. You had Atlanta, you had Columbus, Nashville, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Oklahoma, and Houston. I wish Columbus would have lost, so it would have been OKC or Houston. I would have seen somewhat more success if it would have been in moderate, bigger markets, and especially in Houston, that would have been a very unique situation. But anywho, yeah, so the Carolina Hurricanes have announced their interim GM by the name of Eric Tulsky. He's an analytics blogger for the Philadelphia Flyers fan-run website a little over a decade ago, and he's now an interim GM of an NHL franchise. I gotta say, that's pretty bold and ballsy of you, Tommy Dundon. I mean, very ballsy that you bring in some blogger. I mean, anything is possible. I mean, hey, we brought in a mentally challenged, congresswoman from the Bronx, and that did not go well. And overall, I gotta say, this is just an interim thing. I don't think this is gonna be a permanent situation. I mean, anything is possible. Dreams come true. Tulsky, he paid his dues. He made one heck of a blog for the Philadelphia Flyers. And here we go again. The Philadelphia Flyers lose another one who can make an impact on a different team. The Flyers are officially Toronto's, bitch in the NHL of the States of cursed franchises who have won a Stanley Cup since 1975. They were there in 76, 80, 85, 87, 97, and 2010. I mean, that's a cursed franchise, but I'm intrigued by this. I'm intrigued by the notion of, Carolina Hurricanes. Yet again, they are very unique with their budget, and I wouldn't be surprised that they bring in someone who is got the experience. I mean, pray to God it's not Ken Holland. You've got to see someone who's got the credentials, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's someone outside of the organization, or they're going to keep Skolsky there as the permanent GM. But like I said, he's just the intern for now. And it was an interesting, bold hiring and promotion by the Carolina Hurricanes. And so on and so forth. Now let's get to the juiciest rumors in the National Hockey League. Okay, so we've all heard in Toronto that the forecourt, it's over. Mitch Marner is by Felicia. He's gone. John Tavares has got 1 year left on his contract. And if I were the Toronto Maple Leafs, I would only focus on your 1-2 punch with William Nylander and Austin Matthews. Those guys are set. I think there should be more role players. I mean, you can't have too many superstars on your team. If you have so many superstars on your team, why haven't you won? I mean, look at basketball. The Oklahoma City Thunder, they tried Durant, Westbrook, Harden, and Sabaka. That did not work. LeBron, Wade, and Bosh only got 2 championships, but they went to 4 straight finals. I mean, too many superstars and egos doesn't work. I mean, if you look in the history books in hockey, we've witnessed that the Red Army team kicked the living shit out of, Gretzky and Messier and Bossy and those guys in the NHL All-Star games. I mean, it doesn't matter. You've got to have a team that's been there, done that, who knows each other, can bounce each other's energies. I really think that Toronto needs to figure it out, and also everybody knows this. It's the hardest market to play in because it's taxes. They're because they're mentally challenged, insane sports fans, hockey fans up there. They're all Lennies. I mean, they got nothing better to do, and a lot of everybody does not want to play there. Look what happened to Brendan Shanahan. Shanny was a beauty until he got grayed very quickly. It's not an easy job to be in Toronto. Toronto is the epicenter of stress and anxiety, and it's the sports hockey capital of the world. Yeah. And then we've heard that, a potential reunion for Mitch Marner with Kyle Dubas in Pittsburgh, Chicago Blackhawks, Anaheim Ducks, the New York Islanders, and Utah. But I don't know. Lou, his history with Marner, I don't think the Islanders really need a choke artist in the playoffs who's just a playmaker. He's not a good fit. I think he's either going to Anaheim or Utah and maybe to the Chicago Blackhawks if Patrick Kane does not get back to Chicago. But, you never know, the salary cap, and all these hockey executives are idiots. They are like, oh my God, we got to make sure we spend the money and we got to make sure we sell seats and all that stuff. You've got to make sure you balance your strengths and weaknesses, and make sure you're making sure you spend money on things that you need to improve on, instead of, I got to get the biggest name in town and just whoop, here we go. And it backfires really bad, like the Coyote with the Roadrunner and Tom with Jerry and all that. It's not pretty. And then now you've got, Nashville in the mix, potentially for UC Soros going to Toronto for Mitch Marner. And, we've heard that Nashville's got $26 million of cap space. I'm skeptic. I wouldn't do it. I personally won't do it. I would go for somebody off the market. I would go for somebody on the market to improve the depth. I'm not trading my best player on my team. I would not trade Soros to Toronto for an underwhelming playoff performer in Mitch Marner. I would not do that. And Elias Lindholm, you've got Boston and Carolina. And I believe that Lindholm is going to go to a team that's going to suspensefully surprise us all. It's not going to be Boston. It's going to be someone out of nowhere. I wouldn't be surprised out of nowhere. And then you've got Martinez with Montreal, Utah Predators, of Nashville, Philadelphia Flyers of interest. Carolina's got a very strict budget, but how are they going to make that extra $25 by selling a bunch of baseball cards, sack of marbles, Petey? Yeah, I am very unconvinced. Martin is is very electric. He's talented, great two-way player, but the problem is his consistency at its finest. I see him either taking a 3 to 4 year bridge deal with Carolina, or he's going to be on the trade block for a sign and trade very soon. And then we have Jake DeBrusk. We have Edmonton, Seattle, Toronto, and LA. Jake DeBrusk is a very underrated he was, very, like, his father was a heck of a player, like enforcer size, whatever. But I think DeBrusk is going to go play with the Oilers, and I think it's the best fit. I mean, they don't know if Corey Perry's gone. Evander Kane is out of gas and about to worn out his welcome. I think DeBrusk will be a perfect fit for the Oilers, and he's a hometown kid. We'll be back after these messages. Coming up, we'll be talking about more trade rumors and new juicy news. We are back. So we got Vancouver looking at a renewal contract of Nikita Zadorov, Dakota Joshua, and Victor Arvidsson. And Toronto is looking for some free agents. Listen, I don't care about your history and your accolades. I'd rather go somewhere where there's no pressure, where I have the best chance of winning a Stanley Cup. I would rather go south, into the Sunbelt states, or go play in a traditional market. But I do not want to go play in Chicago. No. I don't want to go play in Detroit. No. Boston, yes. New York Rangers, yes. Islanders, Devils, yes. I mean, Buffalo, I would never go play in Buffalo. There's some teams I don't really think it's viable and suitable. Like, I would go play in St. Louis, LA, but I'm very concerned about their salary cap situation. San Jose, they're in a very long rebuild. Anaheim, they're in a rebuild, but I like what they've got with their young players. Utah is very unique. There's some teams that, like, I would not want to go play in Canada, or franchises that are very poorly run. I would go to places who are warm and welcoming, and they embrace tradition and talent. I would go to Tampa, go to South Florida. I would go those markets, not the hockey traditionalist markets where it's horribly run today. If Mike Ilitch were running the team, when Mike Ilitch was running the Red Wings back in the day, sign me up, big money, The kids, here's here's 15 cents, trying to make $1 out of it. No, thank you, you cheap son of a bitch. No, don't. I mean, why are the Ilitch kids acting like dollar bill warts? That's just embarrassing. I would not want to play for an organization. Like, the tradition's there, but ownership, they're not in the right mind frame, state of mind. I wouldn't go there. And then you've got, Toronto looking at Mario Ferraro, Scott Lawton, Boone Jenner. I mean, are you that stupid and desperate, Maple Leafs? Are you stupid and desperate? I mean, Craig Berube wants to change things up. I get it, but, I respect Chief. Chief is a legend. He's a beauty. He's one of the toughest SOB enforcers in hockey history. I would play for him, but if I'm out on the street in Toronto, and I'm going to say, I'm going to tell you, hey, why don't you become a real journalist instead of listen to these a-holes telling you what it is? But mind your own business, leave me alone. Take a walk in my shoes for a day, and how would it feel? Let's trade places for a week, like Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. I mean, and then 1 week later, then the fan and the player meet up again. They're like, let's switch places again. You're right. It's not easy. I respect everything that you go through on a daily basis. Yeah. And now we got Chandler Stevenson of the Vegas Golden Knights. He is officially not returning to the Vegas Golden Knights. He priced himself out, and I could see him definitely going to a much bigger market, going for how much he can bargain for. I think it's a good thing. And he's grown up, he's one of those misfits. And then, in Cole Perfetti, he's on the trade block. I mean, he is somewhat an underrated player. I like Cole Perfetti. I believe he is a player. I don't know why Winnipeg wants to trade him. I think he is a player. Give him another couple of years, and then you figure it out. I just don't think it really works out in an interesting trade. We've all heard about Patrick Kane yesterday going back to the Blackhawks. I believe it's either Blackhawks or Red Wings at this point. My bet is that he's going to the Red Wings. And Montreal Canadiens may move on from Justin Barron, Jaden Strobel, and or Jordan Harris because their defense is jammed up, and Montreal, they've got a lot of cap space, and I believe they got to get something done because they got to be competitive again. Jonathan Drouin, he had a resurrecting year in Colorado, and I believe they got to deserve the contract extension. He loves playing out in Colorado. There's no pressure on him playing in a Canadian market in Montreal. Montreal just simply ruined him mentally. I really believe that Johnny Drouin is going to be staying with Colorado. He's got to get a good deal done, but they can't get rid of Valerie Nuchiskin's contract because they used their buyouts out already. And Nuchiskin really shot the Avalanche's foot, and they are walking club-footed and cut them down in their prime. And then we've heard that Barry Trotz had a meeting with Ryan McDonough, and Ryan McDonough told him he didn't want to play in Nashville anymore. And that leads, like I said earlier, $26 million of cap space. And Nashville will be a heavy player in the offseason. And they got 2 draft picks in return. But it's going to be costly for the Tampa Bay Lightning because the Lightning need to figure out to keep their longtime captain, Steven Stamkos. If Stamkos leaves, Victor Hedman gets the automatic captaincy. And $26 million of scoring help. I think Nashville is going to. They've got to play their cards right. You don't want to spend so much money on one guy. You got to make sure you get a couple of guys who can put the puck in the nets. You've got to get a couple, not just 1, 2, and a maximum of 3. But you got to make sure you're very careful with your budget and your checkbook. And we heard Anthony Duclair is not renewing his contract with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He was playing with the Sharks because he was better than the Florida Panthers contract. I wouldn't mind a reunion with the Florida Panthers, but would like to see Duclair play for a team. Nashville would be a perfect fit because he's a goal scorer, and Carolina's a good possibility. Maybe Dallas Stars could use him, and I would like St. Louis to be another team for Anthony Duclair services. I know he's been bounced around, journeyman, but I really think Duclair is going to get a 3, maybe 4-year contract deal with a Southern market at this point. He's not going to go to Canada. He's not going to go to Montreal, whatever, but I think he's going to be somewhere in a Sunbelt market. And there's been talks of Johnny Gabriel Pajot and Anders Levy on the trade block. I don't like it. You can't trade Anders Levy. I know that Anders Lee's been slowing down quite a bit due to the fact that, coaching style changes and his age is catching up with him. Several years ago, he was a 40-goal scorer. And, Lou's got to make sure, you got to make sure you rejuvenate Anders Lee. And, Jean-Gabriel Pajot, he's still a great face-off producer. But, the Islanders need goal scoring. They need a goal scorer. That's the only way you're going to make the playoffs. The Islanders had some fluky, lucky bounces here and there this past season for them. But the Islanders need a goddamn goal scorer. It's like the kid on Big Daddy. Who you want to win tonight's game? The goddamn Jets or the goddamn Islanders? The Islanders need a win. They need a goal scorer for their free agency. That's their big major target. And then we got a forward, Andre Kass, who's been playing in the Czech League this past season and looking for a return in the National Hockey League. I personally think it would be a great idea for him to come back to the NHL, but the question is, where does he fit in this paradox? Yeah. All right. We'll be back after these messages. Coming up, we'll be making our weekend predictions. Stay tuned. We are back. Okay, now we are here. This is going to be a fun, long weekend. So here's my predictions for tonight's game in the weekend. Here we go. Florida Panthers against New York Rangers. I got the Panthers winning by a score of 3-2 overtime. Then Saturday, Dallas against Nashville. Looked at the numbers. Dallas favorite in the minus 115, 120. I am going to go Dallas to tie the series, and it will be a 2-goal game. And the over and under, I'm picking the over. And in game 3, I am picking the Florida Panthers to win game 3 as well. And the reason I'm picking the Panthers, I'm not being biased. It's not because, oh, it's the Panthers, I'm down here and all. The Metropolitan sucks at the conference finals. They have a horrific record. Like the last time a team from the Metropolitan went to the Stanley Cup Finals was the Washington Capitals in 2018, and they won the cup. Ever since, we're not counting, the 2021 season, but here we go. So the Atlantic Division is 17-4 against the Metropolitan in the conference final since 2019. Let's go over the team, shall we? Here we go. So in the Metropolitan, represented in 2019, 5 years ago, was the New York, not the Islanders, the Carolina Hurricanes against the Boston Bruins. What happened? Bruins swept them. The next year in 2020, the Lightning played the Islanders, which was the Lightning won in 7. And then the next year, the same two teams, which was in a COVID, whatever, like prison year or whatever, that was a 4-3. And then 2022, it was the Lightning against the Rangers, and the Lightning won that series with only 1 win. And then last year, the Florida Panthers sweep the Carolina Hurricanes. That's why, if you look at the numbers, the Islanders won 3 in 2020, not counting the prison lockdown of 2020-21. So basically, the Rangers won that game in 22 in the conference finals. So those are the only 4 wins we've seen by a Metropolitan team in the conference finals in the last 5-6 years. We're talking 3 by the Islanders. They came close to being the Lightning in 2020. And then you got 1 win by the Rangers 2 years ago. The Metro is weak. I'm saying this. The Metropolitan Division is weak. That's why I'm going with the Panthers. They're strong defensively. Nothing against the Rangers. I know they won the President's Trophy and all that stuff. But track record-wise, in the most recent amount of years, there's no way they can get 1 or 2 wins. There's no way. And I'm saying the Florida Panthers will win Sunday at 3 o'clock. And on Monday, we've got Tampa. We got Dallas and Vancouver. Or Dallas and Edmonton. I'm going to go the Oilers in Edmonton. It's going to be like the previous series between the Oilers and the Canucks. It's going to go back and forth until we find a winner in Game 7. Yeah, and that's the time we've had for our episode. This has been Juicy Hockey with Gordon Maxwell, a.k.a. Gordo. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and make sure you guys watch a lot of hockey. And we will not be airing an episode on Monday due to Memorial Day, and we'll be back on the air on Tuesday to recap a long weekend of hockey games and the latest news and rumors that are juicy fruit. All right, have a great long weekend, everybody, and God bless America.